Hey, welcome back, worship team. It's great to have you. Brandon Dempsey here, worship team training. How are you? You made it to our fantastic worship team hangout with our special guest today, Fred McKinnon. We are so excited that you are here today. Today is February the 17th, and man, it is a fantastic day for us to talk more about worship. So without any further ado, we'd like to thank you guys for following us here on YouTube, also on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Google, Pinterest, YouVersion. Who else am I leaving out? Probably 18 other social media streams. Snapchat, Vine, we're on there too. So thank you guys for following us. You guys are fantastic. And we have a special show today because we have a special friend and we have a special topic about how we are to lead our multi-generations in worship. So we want to go to that and to say, first off, our big hello to this lovely man right here, Rich Kirkpatrick. How are you, man? Great to have you.
I'm doing good this morning.
You look good. You look all coffeeed up.
Coffee? Well, I still need more coffee.
You still need more coffee. The world can never have enough coffee for Rich.
It's only 9 a.m., so, it's the third cup.
Hey, you still have time. What time is coffee?
Time is coffee.
Time is coffee. I got mine right here, too. However, it's filled with water. No one cares. So, guys, check it out. Coming up on our next worship team hangout, we just got through hanging with Laura Marriott on the last hangout, talking about vocal essentials and how to better cultivate and grow our confidence within vocals in order to lead worship. She did a fantastic job also on the webinar, the free webinar that we did. We have another free webinar coming up with this beautiful man right here. Again, I keep showing his face because he's just so popular. But this guy with the Steven Seagal fake head thing going on is going to be with us on March the 1st. So you can't be with it. You can't. Yeah, you can be with us. But I don't know if you can be with us. Can you be with us?
Who's Steven Seagal?
Oh, well, so anyway, Steven Seagal was this really bad actor that thought that he can do kung fu, and he ended up looking like this guy right here. But you kind of got the Walter White thing going on too. So I don't know where to place you. It throws me every time.
That's good. You should be thrown.
I know. See, if Tony was on the cast today, it would be a lot worse. So just be glad, be grateful that you're only subjected to my comments.
Okay, that's good. Tony's comments could hurt someone's feelings sometimes.
They're hurting somebody right now, and he's not even on the show. Right now, he's hurting somebody. Right. Anyway, we miss Tony, Stephanie Timmons. These guys are doing some studio stuff and traveling, so they will be back with us next. Also, on the upcoming shows that we have Kim Bontrager, worship leader, coming back. Rich, she agreed. We didn't scare her off. She's coming back. So we're going to be talking about more stuff. And also Scott Kokenauer, leadership guru at the end of March, or the mid-March actually. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Hey, if you got questions, you got comments for today's show, things that you want to add in, please do that and come back, and you can Twitter us at WorshipTT. Also, you can go to our worshipteamtraining.com site to get all the articles, videos, blogs, and the podcast, and you can comment on the windows below. And hey, if you got an idea for us, a show, a topic that you'd like to see us, hear us address, let us know so that way we can make it happen. We want to do everything that we can to serve you in the best capacity for your team, ministry, and the church that God gave you. So, our special guest today, Fred McKinnon. Man, Fred, this is awesome. We've known each other for a long time, and we've talked back and forth over internet and Twitter and everything, but we just never had the availability to actually do a show together. And just recently, so I'm excited. Fred McKinnon is a worship pastor out from St. Simons Community Church on St. Simons Island, Georgia. Beautiful, beautiful place with lots of golf, and I love it. Lots of beaches. And he's also the internet entrepreneur and founder of the worshipcommunity.com. A lot of you guys know this fantastic site. You got guys like Barry Westman on there, Wisdom Moon on there, so many other people. Rich Kirkpatrick's been on there too, and now they're getting our stuff on there. And they just do fantastic work. Fred's going to talk more about that journey and where he's at currently with that, so I'm very excited to hear about that. Also, Fred runs the site highestpraise.com. He and his wife Joy are blessed with 4 kids, and we are even more blessed to have Fred McKinnon today. So everybody, please welcome our special friend and guest, Fred McKinnon. Fred, how are you?
Hey man, I'm great. I'm really good. I'm delighted to be here. It's it's a little afternoon here Eastern time on our side, so I'm thinking of Rich on his first or second cup of coffee. I've already had my half a pot already today.
There you go.
But yeah, man, things are great. It's a beautiful day over here on St. Simon's Island, blue skies, and I think it's going to get up to maybe 70 degrees. So
yeah,
go out and hit the beach later.
I know, man. That's our kind of weather there. So love it. But glad that you're here, dude.
Yeah, I'm honored to be here. Thanks for asking.
Awesome. You bet. You bet. So let's jump into our first question. Our first question has to do with multi-generational worship. Rich, you and I talked a lot about that in the past, and even recently with our webinars that we have. By the way, if you want to catch our free webinars, we do 2 free webinars a month, or at least one, and you can find that at worshipteamtraining.com. Rich has the next one on March the 1st, so that registration link will be going up very soon. But in the meantime, Rich, can you give us your idea of what does multi-generational worship look like and sound like?
Well, it's kind of interesting that we have to have the conversation because it's really what a family's like. And, I think our generations, last couple generations, what we've tried to do is, we put the kids in a room, put the teens in a room, and we wonder why, when we ask them to come into our room, it's strange to them. So what it looks like, I think, is what a family table should look like. It's messy. Food gets thrown. People sometimes have bad manners. It's not a controlled, perfect environment, and I think this is part of the beauty of it, but also perhaps why some people are afraid of it.
I agree with that. Messy in what way? Because when you say messy, I'm thinking about our 2-year-old, slopping up peas and soup against the wall. Do we do that in church? Like with a communion plate or something?
Well, I mean, there's obviously, babies cry and so forth. That's, I think, we got to live with that. But also multi-generational, the messiness of it is not everybody's going to be thrilled about everything you do. I mean, it's not like what we try to do is we try to market church like a concert venue, which people buy the tickets to go to that person, and they're all similar demographic that have something in common with the actual presentation on a platform. Hopefully people don't come for what's being presented on a platform. They're coming there for Christ. And but I think that the messiness of it is that we treat it, what it looks like is that we treat it, the results of Sunday morning, we compare it to our culture's events, and we don't look at it as something more important than that. Now, it doesn't mean we can't run it well as an event, but I'm just saying I think that's our problem, our disconnect.
Agreed. Well, how about we throw this to Fred? Fred, what does this mean to you? Multi-generational worship? What does it look like? What does it sound like? How does that go off in your church?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I totally just love the word that Rich used that resonates so strong inside of me, and it's family. At our church, we are really trying to do whatever we can to build what we call, I guess, oikos, or family. We do it not only within the context of our congregation of our church, but even on our church staff. Today's Wednesday. Every Wednesday at 3:30 here at St. Simon's Community Church, the office shuts down for a half hour, and our spouses are invited to the church, and our kids all come up to the church, and somebody has some games and hangout stuff figured out, and there's some snacks, and as a staff, there's about 26 of us here on staff, and our spouses come and our kids come after school, and we just play and hang out. We're family together, and that has really done some pretty dramatic things with just the chemistry that we have with one another on our church staff. Family is such a big word, so we can really try to take that into our Sunday environments with our congregation. Now, I would say that at our church, and let me just say right out for the very beginning, Brandon, that I think the danger here, and I'm sure that Rich would agree, the danger is that you watch a webinar or something like this and you try to grab a formula and apply it to every single church and every single congregation, and that's not necessarily what you should do. I can really just sort of speak for what works for us at Community Church and what our heart is. What does it look like? What does it sound like? I think it looks like a couple of things. Number one, it does sound like different types of music. I recognize that in my congregation there are teenagers, there are youth that are below teenage years, and there are young adults, college students, there are grandfathers, there are great-grandfathers, there are people in our church that come from a Catholic background, people that come from a charismatic background, people that are unchurched, people that come from traditional backgrounds. So that our demographic is really mixed up in a huge way. So what that means to me is that I want to craft our Sunday morning experience musically so that it's almost, Paul Baloche once referred to this as a buffet. That there's something there that everyone in our congregation can connect to. And I know there are some churches that will structure the sound and style of their music all with one specific niche that really goes for one target audience. And they'll say to those that aren't really into that, just please come along for the ride. It's not about you. I hear that a lot, and preachers and everybody else, and they tell their congregation over and over, well, it's not about you. It's not about you and what you like. And I kind of beg to differ with that. To some point, that's true, but my understanding of the New Testament church is that it's a place for believers to come and be edified and built up and encouraged and equipped. And so to that extent, yeah, it is about me. And if I can't connect and relate with what's going on, then there's not a whole lot of reason for me to be there. So I really want to try to structure our music in a way that will appeal to that great-grandfather, to that grandfather, to that high school student. And we don't just do it with music. We try to do it also with our demographic on the stage. So just 2 weeks ago, we did the song Good, Good Father. And, I mean, this was amazing because I had a 7th grade daughter singing this with her dad, who was in his 40s. So 40-year-old dad and 7th grade, 15, 13-year-old daughter singing that together. I see Rich do music with his daughter all the time, and it blesses my heart. So not only are we talking about different styles of music, but we're talking about different ages represented. I try to be cognizant and aware of who is reflected on our worship team. And you know what? We don't get it right, and we're not going to just grab a token gray hair so that we can say we had an older person, and we're not just going to grab a token kid so we can say we had a kid and that sort of a thing. But I do want to diversify the age group as much as I can. I want to diversify the music as much as I can so that if you're attending our service, you may not be into everything that we do, but hopefully there's something that you walk away with that impacts you, that resonates with you, and that helps you to engage and connect as well.
Amen. What's your comment?
This is great stuff. There's an echo in there. But anyway, I think that the idea of family does force us to look at this not as a performance in the sense of making everybody happy, connecting with people and letting them know we love them, letting them know that we're leading them someplace is really what it's about. People don't come to church necessarily for that reason of just give it to me. I think they're coming to church because, at least we hope, that they have a need to connect with God. And so our role in there is to facilitate that. And I think often millennials, for instance, are very open to a lot more things than we think they should be when it comes to intergenerational. In fact, they're seeking it.
Yeah.
They want to be a part of something that's not just the people their age, because they've been stuck in that. They get out of college or something to think, I've been with everybody my own age. I want to meet people of all different ages. And I think at church, it is a family. And the number one thing that I like what Fred said there with the buffet is, a buffet is not going to be Morton Steakhouse. or Ruth's Chris or whatever the steakhouse, which is an awesome thing. Some people, they can put on Morton Steakhouse, but what if you have some vegans, who want to come along? So you're never going to be able to fit everybody into the box, is what I'm trying to say.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's not the goal. And the churches who say, hey, like Fred was saying, you had your time already. Now it's the young person's time. That's a wrong question. That's a panic. That's because we haven't developed what I call evolving worship, as opposed to this revolutionary points in time where we just throw everything out. So that to say, looking at the music itself as something, that if it's done well and authentic, we're actually going to, in a marketing sense, relate to the younger generation better than if we were to somehow kick all the old people out and start pretending, only old person on the stage is the pastor, and start pretending somehow that we're reaching intergenerationally. That's not the way to do it. The way to do it is to build relationships. House churches is what used to exist in the New Testament. And so the things that Fred, your staff did, I think is great, and the leaders. I mean, the leaders can't play together. How can the church people play together?
Right.
Yeah. What I want to know is, too, Rich, great, by the way, points. And Fred, how has that influenced the gatherings that you have? Is just awesome. How has that influenced the worship service or just the life of the church? You kind of went into that. Can you kind of give us a little more?
Yeah, are you asking me that?
I'm asking you that.
Okay, yeah. I think it definitely carries into both. I see it not just in our Sunday morning experience. We see it in our staff, but now we see it in the different ministries that are happening throughout the entire church, with our men's ministry, with Bible studies with women and things like that. This sense of family that just pushes through, and we're just very intentional about it. We try to communicate that. Now, and let me just say that we still segment. We do. We still segment. So on Sunday morning, we have something called Club 56, and 5th and 6th graders go to that during our 11 o'clock service, and they do. They have their own band. They have their own teaching. It's completely separate. They're not with us. And same thing for the elementary age kids. They go somewhere. They have their own music, their own worship, their own teaching. And then the high school and middle schoolers come back on Sunday night for 2 different groups of youth group on Sunday night. We encourage them to be a part of what's going on, however, on Sunday morning. And even as we staff worship and worship leading teams in these other Sunday morning venues, some of the high school students are helping to lead the worship of the elementary students. And like I said, ironically enough, you'll have an elementary student that may be helping me lead worship in the main auditorium. So we kind of mix it up and everything and communicate that, not just visually, but we'll even teach on that from time to time and tell people the philosophy behind why we're doing what we do.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Thanks for that. In talking about leadership, we also want to, of course, multiply our leadership and see that through the younger generations and also the older generations in terms of reproducing what God's given us and empowering others in ministry to take on other parts of leadership. Fred, can you tell us, how do you implement, let's call it plurality of leadership? How do you implement that in your team, in your ministry?
Sure. Yeah, great question, Brandon. My answer would be twofold. 2 different ways that I look at plurality of leadership within our worship ministry. One is what probably you're thinking and what comes to mind to most people is that the people that are actually helping lead the ministry, the people that are leading worship in a different venue, we call them venues, rooms, ministries, whatever you want to call them. We do that for me as a worship leader. For example, when I lead worship, even within the context of a given Sunday morning in the main sanctuary, The way I prefer to lead, and people have just given enormous feedback how much they appreciate that, is plurality of leadership as far as who's leading out on songs. And by that I just mean really the vocal leader of a song. So I may sing, one song, and I'm kind of carrying the verse arrangement-wise by myself, and the rest of the vocals will come in on the chorus. If there are exhortations or things that'll be spoken or said or prayed during that transition, it'll be me. But the next song, it may be totally someone else. It might be one of the ladies that's leading. And we've got vocalists that are just good, solid background vocals, but maybe they don't have the confidence yet to be a strong leader and to lead vocally on that song, especially when it comes time to spoken transitions, to praying out loud. But we have those that are just so qualified to do that. And so on any given Sunday, there's typically 2 to 3 different people that are actively leading that song. Right off the bat, that accomplishes several things. One, just the difference between a male-led song and a girl-led song, you have a difference in the key range, which makes it singable. Maybe the song that I led wasn't so singable in that key for someone, but when Kim leads the next song, that's the sweet spot for someone else. So you got that. You have the diversity of age, of gender up there that's doing that. Stylistically, it brings a change. We've got one young guy that's really a great singer, a great guitar player, and a very charismatic worship leader. Without question, his vocal style and inflection and the way he leads would definitely be more appealing to a younger college-age, high school type in demographic. So he may lead a song, and they may kind of be a little bored hearing 44-year-old me, or 45-year-old me. But when he starts singing, it kind of catches their ear. I'm not saying if that's right or wrong, but it's a reality that we deal with. We also work with our high school students and our middle school students, and we're constantly trying to give them music lessons and trying to bring them up through the ranks so that something we call a discipleship square. And you've heard it probably said different ways where I'll do it and you watch me, and then you do it and I'll watch you, and then you do it without me completely. So there's this kind of coaching that we go through. But real quickly, I just want to mention another aspect of plurality of leadership that we have at our church that it's just really rescued me many times, and that is having a leadership team that consists of myself and our pastor, one of the elders in our church, Russ Hutto, who's our associate worship pastor, our tech director, and then a couple of other people who represent a team that we call Worship Synergy. We meet every other month, and we meet to discuss songs, the theology in our songs, the volume, the flow, transitions, sermon length, everything that goes into that, and we have this philosophy that we want to stay right in the middle of that road, and if we start veering too far to the right or to the left, then we can address that in that meeting. Now, what this does is it takes the target off my back as a worship leader, so that when you get that angry email on Monday morning, I can't believe you do that song, that's so shallow theologically. Nobody watching this has ever gotten those emails, right? How could you do this or that or the other? I'm able to reference that, respond to that, and encourage them and say, I would also like you to know that I do not make these decisions all by myself. We actually have a creative team that meets and plans through this. And when you say that, all of a sudden, the target's off of your back. And I can't tell you if it's volume issues, if it's style issues, if it's theology and song issues. When you're able to say, you know what, there's a whole group of us that meet and we discuss all of these things. So I'll be sure and mention that at our next meeting. It really helps you as an individual worship leader to, number one, get the target off your back, and number two, to demonstrate plurality of leadership to your congregation, and so that people don't view you through the eyes, unfortunately, the negative stereotype that people think of the young rock star worship leader who goes up and writes a list and plays his songs and sings and goes back to the green room and has no concern for the rest of the people in the church.
Great points there, Fred. A lot to think about. And Rich, I'm also thinking about your daughter, the way that you guys have shared this plurality of leadership. You've gotten a a really awesome opportunity to lead worship with your daughter, and looking now at in the lens of through her sight, seeing ministry through her eyes as a younger generation. What has that taught you about worship, and then how has that been applied to the way you lead worship at your church?
Well, I think it's very similar to what Fred is saying, where you're not simply in your own bubble, which is very important.
Yeah.
And I think also the only way you learn how to lead is by leading. And so if you're not leading, you're not learning how to lead. And so when are you going to allow the next generation or your peers who are newer at what they're doing to come up?
That's right.
And so you have to create avenues in the public eye, but also with the other things that build up, the meetings and the writing even. So like with my daughter, what I've learned is in the writing that she can be hungry for the history, hungry for the context, hungry for the theology, and yet at the same time have a voice in putting together the music artistically and musically in a way that is her voice. I think what that does is it kind of models how perhaps we should do things in ministry. And for her story is that she actually shared this at one of the National Worship Leader conferences years ago with me. We had a farm system, so the same things that Fred is doing, which are all, I know they're working because I know Fred and I know they're working, were done at my church years ago in Reading, where she was in middle school, and they said, who wants to lead worship? And 4 kids said yes, and they all played very marginally, and they learned to play a couple songs, not very well, but then better and better. By the time they're all teenagers, they're all professionals.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Fred knows, Emily and others, that's what happens, and I know that's happening in Fred's church. So one way pragmatically, guys out there and gals out there, when you build up this plurality idea, you're actually going to end up with an incredible worship team of talent, because kids learn quickly, but it does take time. And the things that Fred was doing like that, I think I just have to say are what has happened with my daughter and I. So she's a fruit of it at 22 now, where we're now going to be, releasing a project together, which was kind of an accident, but really a beautiful thing. And the quality of it and such is that, she's the one giving the producer's notes. She's the one who's co-writing, here's how the vibe is, and we're working with a 26-year-old producer, but also working with my pastor and others about what is this, what's the music that we're leading worship with? How does it fit theologically? All the things that Fred's talking about. So, I wish more people could understand that there's so much richness in being in a family and a community, and not putting it all on yourself. If I could just say that's the thing that is a benefit of it. The benefit is for you, the worship leader, not to have to, like Fred mentioned, as a target. Oh yes, we know it's a target, but how about growth? How about being more than just what you can do?
Yeah. I'll tell you, Brandon, if I could interject in that,
sure.
What Rich is saying, and again, it just comes back to family, okay? As parents, there's a season of our children's lives where, we just tell them this is what you do, and you just do it because I said so. Every kid hates that. Why? Because I said so. Well, and then they begin to get where you're not commanding them so much, but you're coaching them. And I would add to what Rich is saying, because he's talking about, now Emily's giving the producer the notes and things like that, is when you begin to think multi-generationally and plurality of leadership, especially when you start working with these younger teens, middle school, high school students, I want to encourage everyone at that point in that season of this adolescence's life, it's not so much about just do what I tell you to do because I said so. It's about coaching, and one of the most important things is to listen to them because they have insight. into their generation. They have insight into the music and the style that they like. They have insight into what their age feels like is fake and not real, and what's not authentic. And it's very easy to think, well, I've done this for 30 years, so I'm going to tell you how to do it, and you're going to do it the way I do it. But to just take the hands off a little bit, and that's part of family is trust, right? And I have a 15-year-old son, one of my oldest of four, and I'm in a season right now where I just have to trust him. I can't protect him from everything. I can't filter everything. I just have to trust him, and I have to listen to when he speaks to me. As a young man, I listen. So I would really encourage that for people that are getting involved in that. Don't just get a middle schooler and teach them how to play a song and have them play it the way you want them to play it, but be open and willing and family to listen and hear, hey, what are your ideas? How would you like to do this? What is God showing you that can make this even greater?
Yes. Aaron, take the wheel. So, yeah, I think that's a beautiful concept, because what makes it even richer is that we're able to see the younger generations that do take what we're coaching them with, and then they begin to share it with their younger generations that are looking up to them. And so that's the beauty that I find in our ministry, is that you're able to keep passing that down, which is no different from a lot of the other great cultures and communities out there that have done this historically, even throughout, especially the Bible. So last question, Fred, what out of all that we talked about today with multi-generational worship, plurality of leadership, what's the one thing that you keep coming back to? And maybe you've already said it, but what's the one thing you keep coming back to?
Well, I just keep coming back to surrender and dying to self, and seeing my role as a worship pastor and a worship leader as that of a servant, to serve, bless, honor those that I've been tasked to lead, and to get my own style preference and my own song preferences out of the way, and to just cast myself down as a servant for those people. Because if they're not engaging, if they're not resonating, and like Rich said, you're never going to make everybody happy. You're just not. You're not, and you shouldn't even try. But just die to your own way, of the way you think it has to be, and listen. Become a listener. I'm still not the listener I want to be, but become a listener. Get to know your flock. Find a way to get to know your flock. Even those adversarial ones, go to lunch with them, but surrender and be a leader. Be a clear leader, but surrender and be a servant to your flock.
Awesome word. Thanks so much for that, Fred. Rich, thanks so much, brother. Great having you on today and to share your heart. And always, man, it's wonderful to have you hang with us and share.
It's always good. It's always good, especially when Fred McKinnon is on. I feel like
man.
It's across the whole country here. We got a fellow beach guy over there on the other coast, and Fred is quite a servant of God, man of God.
It's like a family reunion, isn't it, Rich?
It is. And now we're the old weird uncles at the party.
That's fantastic. Well, yes, Fred, thank you so much for being here with us today and sharing your heart, your ministry, and all the words that you've had to encourage all of us with, and many worship leaders that are looking to great insight and encouragement. You provided that today. Thank you.
Thank you. It's my honor and pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, and it's a blessing, man. We can finally have you on the show, so we're going to definitely have you come back, and very excited about that.
Yeah, man, this is easy. I love it. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, guys, be sure to check us out coming up later on this month we're already at the end of February. So coming up in March, Kim Bontrager is coming back, and Scott Kokenauer. So you can't miss those. And then plus, be sure to catch the free webinar with this awesome dude right here, Rich Kirkpatrick, talking about the calling of a worship leader. So that's going to be fantastic. So, Fred, thank you again so much for your time today and being with us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yes. Rich, our brother,
Cheers.
Yes, sir. All right, guys, and we'll see you back. Thanks everybody for hanging with us on Periscope. You can check us out on Periscope. Just search Worship Team Training, and you'll find the button there to follow as we go on weekly with shows every day. And plus, also hit us back with worshipteamtraining.com for articles, more videos, hangouts just like this, events, our mentoring program, and our workshops, all waiting right for you. So until then, guys, may God bless your day and your ministry, and may His blessings flow through you in your worship ministry. Love you, and we'll see you guys back soon. Bye.
Thanks so much.
Thanks so much.